All right, good evening. Welcome to Converge and welcome to Level Up Harford Business Workshop Series. For those of you that have attended our other classes, welcome back. For those that are attending for the first time, welcome. This is a tremendous opportunity to tap into amazing resources to help either launch or grow a business. So I don't want to take time away from what we're here to learn about tonight, which is marketing, and we're excited to be able to do so, but I did want to take just a moment. There are two flyers on the back table that address the next 3 workshops in our series. So on Tuesday, April the 14th, we will be discussing labor and unemployment law updates. Thursday, May 14th, we will be discussing hiring your first employee. And finally, on June 9th, also a Tuesday, planning for business continuity. So a couple of other series opportunities for you. Some of these may be appropriate to your business in different stages, but certainly we welcome you to sit in any or all of these. Tonight, we are blessed to have Mr. Ryan Delgallo with us from the Small Business Development Center. Ryan is an expert in helping businesses just like yours and does a fantastic job of presenting ways of marketing for business success. So thank you again for being here this evening, and please take advantage of the resource, ask questions, and again, much appreciated for your time.
All right, so how's everyone doing today? You know I'm going to make a joke about the weather. Right? I was looking out the window today. I'm like, oh, is this going to be canceled? Is this still going to be on? But I appreciate you all coming out tonight. I spent the majority of my week over at Fort Detrick in Frederick County. I have a contract with the Department of Defense to also teach to transitioning veterans that want to open up their businesses. So we go through business planning, financing, etc. And then I got home late last night and was able to grill outside in a tank top. And early this morning I looked out, I was like, man, we're in a snow globe again. What's going on here? But no, I welcome everybody, and I really want to make this just an open and transparent conversation too. Want to hear your feedback and potentially some obstacles that you're dealing with in your business, specifically in marketing. Right. So again, my name's Ryan Delgallo. I'm here representing tonight America's Small Business Development Center, otherwise known as the SBDC. Has anyone heard of that program before, the SBDC? All right, it's kind of common, half a hand up. So the SBDC is a program of the SBA. Right? Most folks know the SBA, that's the Small Business Administration, which is the federal government. They provide the funding along with the state of Maryland and the county to put me here as a no-cost resource to you to help you start your business. So if you have questions on sole proprietorships, the LLCs, on how to write a business plan or how to raise capital, that's what I specialize in. So I've been in that role for about 12 years. I've helped open right about 300 companies so far, primarily in Harford County. I'm an entrepreneur myself with a restaurant and a finance consulting firm, and I specialize in lending. So if anyone ever had questions, post this class on government guaranteed lending through SBA or USDA programs, I'm happy to break that down for you and answer any questions. But today's primary focus is going to be on marketing. So by a show of hands, how many of you are in business today? All right, so that's a good bit. That's more than I was expecting. And then how many of you are a startup or pre-venture, pre-revenue? All right, so a couple hands still in the room. So for those of you that are in business already, how many of you have been here for more than 2 years? All right, start to see that breakdown. And how about more than 5? All right, awesome. So we got some long-standing businesses there. And that's a huge milestone to try hitting, right? Hitting that 5-year mark is incredible. So congratulations to you. All right, so as we kick this off, just our one disclaimer, nothing here is to be construed as legal advice or financial advice or professional advice, as he's not registered as a client of the SBDC yet. So this is just general marketing content and discussion purposes. So again, my name is Ryan Delgallo, Senior Business Consultant, Maryland SBDC in the Mid-Atlantic VBOC, which is the Veterans Business Outreach Center. It's where I also oversee Northern Virginia, Washington, D.C., Maryland, and Delaware, along with 16 Department of Defense installations. So I've been in that role for approximately 5 years, and the other time is with the SBDC. I've worked with about 1,000 entrepreneurs throughout my career. I helped launch about 300 businesses in this community, create about 800 jobs, and I've raised about $100 million in capital for startup and expanding businesses. And again, that's my specialty, is on that side. As I mentioned, I'm a serial entrepreneur and also a professor at Harford Community College in business, marketing, and economics. So we're here today to really cover marketing. We're going to do a specific focus on social media marketing because that was a lot of the feedback that we had received, how to get that ROI, how to track it in different metrics and what we can begin to look into. But marketing as a whole, right? What is it? It is more than just social media, right? So I want to make sure we address that first, right? So we still have digital and social media, but we also have e-commerce and what some of us may consider your old school marketing techniques, which is like print, radio, television. We could kind of start to twist that and look at Spotify advertisement, Apple Music, etc. And then the overall strategy and communication that goes along with it. But our first most important part of this conversation is identifying the target market and knowing exactly who it is that we are speaking to. One thing that people often overlook is breaking that down into a reasonable demographic criteria. So for those of you that are in business or those of you that are just starting out, how many of you could use extra money for your company? All right, I should see every hand raised. Right? Everyone needs extra funding, right? Everyone needs extra capital. And one reason why people are putting together a marketing plan and a business plan is because it's a requirement for SBA-backed financing. Right? So we have to have this document. And your marketing needs to be well thought out, not just running through ChatGPT, say I'm opening a coffee shop, create a marketing plan. Right? Underwriting's going to know that you did not put in human effort into that plan. Right? So we need to begin to break it down. What a lot of folks do is they have the target demographic too broad. Right? Let's say you're opening up a restaurant per se, and an average client may tell me, well, everyone's got to eat to survive, so our target market is between 5 years old and 100 years old. Right? The bank's going to laugh at you. Right? Underwriting's going to have a field day with it, tear it apart, and tell you to come back when you're ready. Right? So we need to first understand your target market and what that is. So first we need to identify it through our market research. And one thing I want to note as well is that if you ever became a client of the Small Business Development Center, we already pay for a profile with Vertical IQ. Vertical IQ is a market research institution where we can pull those reports for you at no cost. If you were to do that on your own privately, it could cost hundreds to thousands of dollars for those reports. It's also the same exact ones that many lenders, including PLP lenders of the SBA, which are your preferred lending partners, right? It's the same research. Right, so we can pull those reports for you at no cost. But we need to include within your target market breakdown what you know about your customers. Right? It's important to put yourself in their shoes. So with your consumers, we need to break down demographics, geography, lifestyle, and shopping habits. Right? So just by a show of hands again, how many of you are on social media yourself? Right? Just about every hand is up. I see some head shaking. Think about Facebook. Right? It's still kind of the king of social media when it comes to average daily users. Think of the information that you provided when you created that account. Right? You gave your name, you gave your birthday, right? So now we have your age. You gave your gender. You gave where you went to school, whether it be high school or college and what degree. So now we know your educational level. You put in your employment status and what your title is at work. So now we know your salary range. And then you continue to give information. Political affiliation, religious affiliation. Am I looking at this from an Apple or an Android device? And then when you create those accounts, what do they prompt you to do? Start liking pages or following pages of stuff that you're into. What movies do you like? What books do you read? What shows do you watch? What's your relationship status, right? That list goes on and on and on. That's why I always laugh when folks say, well, Facebook stole my data. I'm like, you willingly gave it. Right? And then you check that box for terms and conditions. So essentially what Facebook just did is they created a market persona off of you. And now us as entrepreneurs and small business owners, we go back and purchase that information based on the marketing plan that we're creating. Right? Start to make sense? Right? Because what we want to do is we need to key this down. If you're applying for an SBA-backed loan and you're developing a marketing plan, they want to see a 10 to 15 year age range. Right? That's the target market. Beyond the 10 to 15 years, you begin to change generations. And that's where something that means is of value or importance to one generation may not be the same to the next. Right? So they want the 10 to 15 year age range. Now, if you are more so in government contracting or a B2B business model, business to business, you can look at commercial and wholesale compatibility. Right? If you're industry and government need. Is anyone here a government contractor or maybe intend to be a government contractor? All right, so we got two in the room. Right? So we need to know what agencies buy your products. Right? We need to know what's important to current administrations and where funding is going to be going. For an example, I have a private client in Australia that is investing in coal and carbon here in the United States. And they really focused their time on investments contingent on political environment in the United States, on who's into coal at the time, right? And that's how they have to make their decisions. So these are things, if you're dealing with the government, whether it be federal or state or local, you need to look at the entire environment as a whole to know where you're going to focus your efforts. But we need to quantify this information, right? Simply saying that there's a lot of people that live in the DMV is not going to fly in a marketing plan. Right? It's not going to fly in underwriting. Has anyone here before been through the financing process for a small business loan? Right, so for an example, when you talk to your banker and they review your business plan and your marketing plan, they have to put together kind of like a pre-underwriting report and give it to their head credit officers. And they're going to copy and paste the information from your business and marketing plan to answer their specific questions. And if it's not actually answering it, or if it's too vague, credit may come back and say, nah, we're not confident in this deal, right? So we need quantifiable information. So for an example, out of the 254,000 people that live in Harford County, Maryland, approximately 30% meet the target market criteria for our business. And that is a 18 to 35-year-old male who earns between $50,000 to $65,000 a year with a bachelor's degree education. He is single, etc. Right? And we continue to break that down. And where can you get that information? The Census Bureau, right? Through citydata.com. Potentially use your AI resources like ChatGPT to prompt market research and to prompt your sources from that. But again, don't have it write it for you, right? We can pick up on that. I can't remember what that actual symbol is. That's the dash that ChatGPT always uses. Yeah, and so whenever I see that come back on a business plan or a marketing plan, I'm immediately like, you didn't write it. Underwriting's gonna know you didn't write it, right? So we need to humanize it. We gotta continue to prompt it to extract that information. So when we continue to quantify this, we need to know how many people are there in the current market that you're serving, and then what's the future growth of that market, or potentially the future decline of that market, right? Because underwriting is going to do their own homework. And I've never seen a bank back a loan if you come back and say, well, this industry is actually declining by 6.8% over the next 5 years, right? Would you put your money into that type of business? Probably not if someone leads with that it's declining. So we need to know what that future growth looks like. Your marketing plan and business plan, it's a living, breathing document. And what I mean by that is essentially by the time you finish writing it, it's already out of date, right? Our economy is constantly changing. Our society, cultural norms, housing, development, it's always adjusting, meaning that we always need to revisit and adjust our business plan and our marketing plan to keep it updated. And then overall economic reliability, right? How many people within your target market actually have the incentive or the ability to give you their hard-earned money, right? And this is a part of the reason why we need to break that down with that target market, know specifically who we're talking to and what their disposable income is like, right? Are we selling a want or are we selling a need? And then we need to look at the psychological aspect when it comes to marketing, and we're going to speak on that more so here in a moment. And then lastly, if you're putting together a marketing plan or part of a business plan, and if you do want capital, you need to be able to cite your sources, right? This is not really it's not an opinionated document, right? It's based on facts. It's based on projections and reasonable assumptions and justification. So this does not mean that you need a formal citation page in APA or MLA format like you're submitting a college paper, but at least state where you're getting your information from so they know you're not making it up. So for an example, according to the United States Census Bureau, there are 608,000 people who live in Baltimore City, Maryland, right? That's all you need, right? You don't need a formal citation page, but at least acknowledge where you pulled the data from. Now, continuing on with target market and speaking on end users, this is a big conversation that we have with our clients. Has anyone ever heard of an end user within a marketing plan? All right, so I'm seeing some head shaking. So let's look at the floral industry. This is from a real case study with a client from just a handful of years ago. She was starting a floral-based business and primarily focused on weddings. She was spending all of her advertising dollars trying to target brides, right? And in her marketing plan, it was between about 22 to 32 years of age. But what she realized is when she was tracking her Google Analytics, her metadata, that target market was not the click-throughs. They were more so 45 to 60 years of age, all right? So who was the actual person doing the research here? Yeah, the mother of the bride, right? If the mom and dad is forking the bill, usually they want to say and where that money is going. And that is what she found. She started to pivot her entire marketing budget and her branding around advertising to the parents, right? And it completely flipped her business because now they were saying, oh, honey, by the way, we found a better deal over here. Let's take a look at this and schedule a consultation. And it completely transformed her business. And she was able to quit her full-time job and go fully self-employed into the floral industry. Another example of a target market and an end user is I like using Toyota manufacturing. Right? Let's think of Toyota manufacturing, the actual plant that builds the vehicles. Who is their customer? Who said dealerships? Yes, that is very correct. Not many people think that. They're like, well, you and I, right? We're buying the truck, but that's not the case. You and I are the end user of Toyota manufacturing. The actual customer is the dealerships, right? So who is actually getting our product and utilizing it? One of the most popular industries that I work with in Harford County and really throughout Maryland is assisted living facilities. Does anyone here own an assisted living facility? All right, no, all right. So what I tend to see is when the average person is putting together a marketing plan and they want to purchase an assisted living facility or they want to buy one, guess who they're putting as their target market? Right, the person receiving their service, right? And let's say it's a senior care facility. And just for example purposes, let me say they put in there, our target market is 80 to 95 years of age, and we're gonna advertise on Facebook and Instagram. Does that sound right to you? Yeah. But that's probably about 90% of what I see. All right, so when we begin to break this down, we need to think about who is the target market. It's going to be the caregiver, right? The loved one. And that's usually now the children of that individual, which puts them between 50 to 65 years of age. And when we look at Facebook demographic and metadata, that is a top growing category on social media platforms, right? That 50 to 65 plus category, right? So that's where you can start to twist your marketing. Going into like TikTok and Snapchat, right? That's not gonna make sense. That's your younger generation. I was teaching at, where was I at? Aberdeen High School for the Science and Math Academy. I was a guest speaker there a few weeks ago. And I asked the students, I was like, how many of you are on Facebook? Not one kid raised their hand. Some of them laughed at me. And one kid shouted out, what am I, my grandpa? Like, we're not on Facebook. That's where we start to see these generational changes, right? So if you ever did put into your business plan or marketing plan, well, everyone's my potential customer. Underwriting, a lender, right? It's not gonna fly with them. We need to break this down. Now, marketing budgets. How many of you have a formal marketing budget or a strategy that you put in place for your current or existing business? All right, so I saw one hand go up and I think half a hand, all right, and another one. All right, so just a few of you out of about the 10 to 15 that raised their hand that you're in business, right? And that's essentially why we're here. And there are some basic strategies that go around in forming a marketing budget. Now, I can't say what I'm going through today is going to work exactly for your specific situation because all of us have different goals that we want to obtain. We have different sales revenue, we have different profit margins, etc. Right? So this is just some general advice on what to consider. So the most common method of setting a marketing budget is a percentage of your revenue. Right? Now for those next bullet points that come down, I'm actually going to go from bottom up. So 10 to 20% of your revenue is the most common for a startup or aggressive expansion phases, right? Because when you're a startup or a pre-revenue business, people don't know who you are yet, right? So that's the time that you need to ramp up your marketing to approximately 10 to 20% of your revenue. We go up to the next bullet point. You're in a growth focus, right? Let's say you're established, things are fairly consistent already, but you're looking to grow further. Maybe you need to hire somebody else. You want to find new customers and bring them on. 6 to 10% of your revenue is what's expected. And then up to our final bullet point, you're a stable company. You're established. You don't need to go out and be on the hunt as much anymore. That percentage can begin to decline. So 2 to 5% of your gross revenue is what we tend to see. Now, if a business generates $1 million annually, a conservative budget at 5% would be $50,000 a year per marketing, or a growth budget, which would be 10% of that number, equals $100,000. Now this method works well when revenue is predictable, margins are stable, and the company is not into a survival mode. Now, one of the best times to get money for your business is when you show that you do not need it. right? I want to say that again. One of the best times to get money for your business is when you show that you do not need it. Since I specialize in finance and I have clients all over the country, I have too many people call me when they are down to their last dollar, right? They're burning fumes and they're like, we need money for marketing. We got to ramp up. We got to ramp up. We need working capital. But now you're no longer lendable. All right, when you don't show that you have the ability to pay it back with confidence, you're not going to get approved for financing. So before you get to that point, it's the time to start having these conversations, thinking about what your business plan and your marketing plan is going to be, and how much capital is it going to take us to do it. Then you might ask yourselves, well, how do I know that this is actually going to work? How do I know that I get a return on my investment? That's the point of the business plan. Right, that's the point of the financial projections that you're putting through here. They need to be justifiable. You have to be able to back up your assumptions. And if you're not confident in it, a bank will never be confident in it. Right, so always take that into consideration. Now, another method that you could do here, and this is more so for your tighter margin businesses, but that's doing a percentage based off of your gross profit. Right, so if we think about a profit and loss statement or an income statement, our first line is our revenue. Right, that's all of the income that is coming into the business. And then you have your cost of goods sold, your COGS. That's how much did it cost you to produce that revenue. And then when you subtract those numbers, now you have your gross profit. Right, so gross profit is a lower figure than that of revenue. So therefore, if you're in a tighter margin business, base it off of gross profit. So some businesses prefer allocating marketing based on gross profit instead of revenue. So for example here, if we do $1 million in revenue, our cost of goods sold is $600,000. Our gross profit is now $400,000. If we do 10% of gross profit, we're at $40,000. Right, so see how it just starts to kind of slim down those numbers? Because if you're in a tighter margin business, that means you're not making as much profit per product or service that you're offering. Right, so we got to slim this down. Now again, not one of these may be the ideal scenario for you. This is for example purposes and starting to consider. But the best thing you can do in marketing is to try it, measure it, and then adjust as needed. Now, many industries have rough norms as far as what percentage they allocate, and this is based off of revenue, okay? So if we look at retail businesses, 4 to 8% of revenue is the average. For restaurants, 3 to 6%. Professional services, such as consulting, legal, accounting, is 5 to 10%. SAS, 15 to 30%, and home services, 8 to 15%. Now, think about your industry. This is some basic research that you'll be able to do on your own. You can start to pull that data, put it in place, and begin to measure it over time. Any questions on this so far? All right, we're keeping it going. I don't see too many smiles. Try not to nod off, guys. I know it's a lot of information getting hit at you quick because we only have about 60 minutes to cover a topic that we could speak on for weeks. Now I'm going to talk about filler content on your social media. What a lot of companies end up doing is they are struggling to put together a social media calendar. What I recommend for you to do is leverage AI, right? Leverage like a ChatGPT or a Copilot or all the different ones that are available. Put in the information about your business. Link your website. SEO, put it in there, right? What's tied back to your company? And ask ChatGPT to create a social media calendar for you, right? And you could break this down on 2 posts per day, maybe 2 posts per week, right? However it is that you want to prompt it. When I run our social media for our companies, I want at least 2 posts per day, right? That's what I am shooting for. One in the morning, because between 5 a.m. and 8 a.m. is the most active time on Facebook. And then one later on in the afternoon, early evening when people are coming home from work. But yes, question.
When I link my website into my post that I'm creating, it kicks it out an algorithm. Like if I had a significant amount of people viewing my previous post, after that it slows it down.
Yes, so the question/comment was when I link my website on my social media post, my reactions and whatnot are declining. The reason for that is Facebook knows that you're attempting to take people off of their profile. You're taking people off of their platform and they will devalue your content. And I'm going to talk about some of the analytics of the algorithm a few more slides in. Right? So I'll be sure to address that. Right now we're kind of scratching the surface And then I'm going to get very detailed on how the algorithm actually works with these social media platforms. So again, filler content is people linking articles, right? Yes, it can work. Sometimes it can't. However, the average attention span of an American is 8.25 seconds. You have 8.25 seconds to capture someone's attention to determine, are they going to keep their eyes on this content or are they scrolling? How many of you lay in bed at night and just scroll on your social media, right? I see some hands going up, some embarrassment. Yeah, we just scroll. If it does not capture your attention, you're not getting views, which means you're not gaining in the algorithm. So if you're ever linking a post as part of your filler content, make sure that it's content people are actually going to read, right? If someone clicks through on a blog post and they immediately exit out, you're not gaining any kind of traction. You're actually showing Facebook that you post boring content, and they're not going to bring people to your page. They're not going to see your post anymore, right? So if you're doing that type of filler content, make sure they're reading it. All right, how many of us have a smartphone in our pocket? All right, just about everybody. And for those of you that didn't raise your hands, I'm assuming it's on the desk, right? More of the times than not, we have a smartphone. If we have a smartphone, there is no reason why we're not marketing on a regular basis. You have access to all of these apps at 24/7, right? And you don't have to pay for them unless you're running paid ads. So the average person is spending 4.5 hours on their phone with 2.5 hours on social media alone. Think about that, the average person. The most active time on Facebook is between 5 a.m. to 8 a.m. Right, and that is recent data that I pulled to add into this presentation. And the reason why is the first thing people are doing when they wake up in the morning. It tends to be where they're getting their news from. It's not from cable anymore. Right? Most people don't have cable. Right? They're getting their news from social media. Whether it's accurate or not, that's where they're getting it from. Now, business planning. Business planning and marketing planning goes together. A marketing plan is part of your business plan. Now, I wanted to add this in here because I believe the first part of a business plan should be your opportunity plan. And that is problem plus solution, right? So opportunity equals problem plus solution. What problem are you actually solving in your business? The majority of clients that I work with on a daily basis struggle to put that into words. What they end up doing for the common person is when they're trying to explain to me what problem they're solving, they're explaining their solution. They're talking about their business. They're not actually putting themselves in their client's shoes or their customer's shoes and thinking about what problem they have, right? They're making it about themselves. So we need to identify the problem that your customer has. And when I write a business plan, usually I'll have a couple opening sentences discussing the problem at hand and how many people it impacts, and then 3 to 5 bullet points keying down those problems. And then my next section is the solution, right? And I would word that something along the lines of XYZ LLC, hereby known as the company, solves the problems listed above by doing the following. And then I'll have 3 to 5 bullet points, but each solution bullet point should directly combat the problem ones I listed above, right? So that way we know what we're selling, who we're selling it to, and why we are selling it to them. Now, after you identify all of this information, right, after your opportunity section usually comes market. How many people are in your market? How many competitors are in your industry? We're starting to break this down. What's the dollar value of your market? How many people can you reasonably serve with the resources you have? And then we think about the competition, right? What other options do those folks have to go to? And then it's your competitive advantages. Why are you better? What makes you unique? And what comes after that is marketing, right? So we've identified problem, solution, market value, and target market all together. The other alternative options they have, you're dictating why you're better, what makes you unique, and now how are we going to convince people of that, right? That's your marketing plan. And then post that, which I won't go any further, is then your sales plan, right? Because once you can advertise to people, you can speak to them, and you're going to separate their hard-earned money from their pocket and put it in yours. How are you making that transaction happen, right? What's the follow-up? Is there a cold call, right? What's that plan? And then how are you executing it and getting the cash from their pocket to yours? That's business, right? That's marketing. But we can't do that effectively unless we put ourselves in their shoes. right? So what's fully in that plan? We touched on the majority of it. One thing I want to note on this, and we're not going to spend too much time here, but when you get to the part of where you're writing the executive summary of your business, make sure you save it for last. I know that sounds like a very 101 level thing to say, but when I receive business plans back, I tend to see folks only writing the executive summary and they're skipping the rest of it. And there's not enough meat on the bones for someone to reasonably understand what it is that you're doing. And I key a lot of this back to financing, right? Because we all raised our hands that we could use more capital in our company, right? And if your banker does not understand what it is that you're doing, because there's not enough detail, they can't go and relay that to credit. And then the deal can fall through the cracks. Have we ever seen the show, Are You Smarter Than a Fifth Grader? What did we learn from that show? Most Americans are not smarter than a fifth grader, right? So when I work with clients to write business plans, I don't like using the term dumb it down, but write it in a way that a fifth grader can read it and understand it. And could they go home and tell their parents what they just read and be able to translate that to them? Because in this example, it's your banker going to the credit team, right? Are they going to be able to convey that message back to them? And all of this is what's being discussed. Now we're going to dive into Facebook marketing. We're going to talk a little bit into Meta. We will later on talk more about like some Google and analytics and how to track that. But this is what we're predominantly going to focus on, right? Because remember, Facebook owns Instagram as well. So that's Meta that I keep saying. That's the parent company. And how all of that begins to link together because the algorithms are fairly similar. Now, this image here is a few years old. The reason why I have not bothered changing it is because there's about 250 different variations of Facebook going on at any time. They're constantly testing different variations, seeing what works, what's user-friendly, what variation is getting business owners to spend more ad spend. So this is a generic look as to how it may appear on the back end of your Facebook. Now, I want you to look at the information on the right-hand side first and the details that it's asking. Now, I know this may be hard for some folks to see, and if you need a copy of this presentation afterwards, I'd be happy to send it to you. Behaviors, language, relationship status, education, work, financial, home, market segments, parents, politics, life events, device owners, additional categories. See all the detail that we are prompted with as business owners to key down who you actually want to speak with? This is pretty significant. That's why I always just kind of shake my head when I see a business plan that has 18 to 65 as the target market. And that is the standard that Facebook may set for you on the back end is, yeah, we'll push this ad out to anyone that's 18 to 65. You are throwing money away. The broader the market that you focus on putting your marketing dollars into, you are throwing it away, right? Because how you're speaking to an 18-year-old and what's going to convey to them to get them to convert to be a paying customer is extremely different than someone that's 65, right? It's just the way it works. And now, if you do believe that you have that wide range of an audience, customize the ads then for the different generations, right? We need to break that down. Then you'll see here right there in the center, United States, Georgia, Savannah. You can start to pinpoint in where you want that ad to go to, right? So let's just say, we'll use an example, we're in Aberdeen. Let's say we opened up a brewery on Main Street in downtown Aberdeen, and we want to advertise to people within a 5-mile radius of there. You can put in your specific address, drop a pin, and kind of work out a radius, and you'll see it on the map of how many people that fall into your target market are within that area. Right? Maybe it's 10,000 people, maybe it's 3,000 people, but you want to key that down. So that way, if you're spending money behind this, you know who it's going to. Is this making sense? Right? Because when you put it too broad, I don't know if anyone's into firearms or hunting or anything like that like I am, but I like to describing it as shooting a shotgun. Bird shot, it scatters. You don't fully know where it's landing. Right? In comparison to if you're shooting a rifle, you want it to be very precise and on target. And if I'm putting my money towards something, or if I'm putting my money into a business, I want it precise, right? Why am I going to throw it and see what sticks? Do that with your marketing. Every dollar you spend is important. So Facebook statistics, daily users, From a desktop, 46 million may sound kind of high, but when you break that down to mobile, 2.51 billion with a B. That's global users on a daily basis, 2.51 billion. There's over 500 million stories that are viewed and over 200 billion reels. Reels are the new absorbed content, right? That's probably what you're staying up at night scrolling, and that's where you only have a few seconds to capture that user's attention. It was many, many years ago, I had the opportunity to work with Sheryl Sandberg. She was the former COO of Facebook, and this was when I spent time in San Francisco under the SBA. When I was in a presentation that Facebook was doing, they made a very smart comment that I had never really thought about before. They were like, think about your iPhone, Ryan. I'm like, yep, okay, I'm thinking about it. They're like, when you're paying for an ad on these social media platforms, if you're buying real estate, you want the most house for your dollar, right? The most land for your dollar. So why are you posting photos or videos or content that's horizontal? So that way when the person's scrolling, they're only seeing a portion of your ad. They're only seeing a portion of your content. Like everything you post, make sure it is in a vertical format. So that way it takes up the entire screen. For an example, if you click on a photo on Facebook or Instagram and it's posted horizontally, you know how you have the big black boxes on the top and bottom? It's not taking up all that real estate. That's what they don't want you to do. Post it vertically, so it takes up the full image on the iPad, on the desktop, on the phone that your user is looking at it from. All right, you're getting the most bang for your buck. Now, we mentioned that the average person spends 2 to 2.5 hours on social media. That's social media across all platforms. The average daily use on Facebook is approximately 35 minutes, right? Or 19 hours per month on Facebook alone. Now, who's on Facebook, right? So we can start to see this trend. So the first one is 18 to 24, and then it's 25 to 34, 35 to 44, 45 to 54, 55 to 64, and then you're 65 plus. So right now, your 25 to 34 is still the primary group on Facebook, right? It's still kind of like your middle ground millennials that tend to be the most active users. But what's really important is the trends. So that way we know where we're going and where we're not going. This data is from 2019 to 2024. All 2025 data has not fully been released yet, okay? So that's why we're looking at 24 data. So your biggest change, the reduction by 4.3% of the 18 to 24-year-old market, right? So the reason why 18 to 24-year-olds tend to be on Facebook is for networking purposes and job seeking, right? They don't necessarily want to be on that platform because they want to be. They're on there because they know that you're on it and you're the employers, right? And they need to find jobs and they're not using LinkedIn, right? So they're going to go back on Facebook and see if they can find some job opportunities. A slight reduction by 3.1% was the 25 to 34-year-old category. There are reasons being and why they've dropped off of Facebook from 2019 to 2024 is they're tired of bad news, right? This age range is now starting families. They're seeking peace, and they're moving away from platforms, right? They're getting away from the chaos. Now, who's completely disappeared? That's our 13 to 17-year-olds, right? They used to have that little orange sliver there in 2019, but the 2024, completely gone. They can't even measure it anymore. It's at 0%, right? They're non-existent. They're primarily on Snapchat and TikTok, all right? And then finally is our late adopters, and that's our 65 plus category, where they surpassed 55 to 64. Right? So your 65 plus are Facebook users, right? They're considered late adopters, the more so the ones that were waiting for the kids to get off of it, right? And that kind of tends to be where we're at today with the trends. Now, these are heat signatures. So that way we can start to see where are people clicking throughout the day. Why are they clicking and why are they doing what they do? Right? So in the morning, it's from a phone. All right, as you can see, they're posting a status. I hate my life. I'm going to quit my job today and start a business. Right? That's what they're posting. And then later on throughout the day, They're going out and about to meetings, they're going to lunch with friends, grabbing an afternoon coffee. They may have a tablet with them and getting some work done. Now you can see that heat signature is up at the search bar, right? So while they're kind of searching around, they're looking up friends, they're looking up different brands. What am I going to order for dinner later? What are the specials, right? They're doing searching during the afternoon. And then later on throughout the day, while they're back at their computer, they're working. We know remote work is very heavy right now. There's a monitor up, there's a screen with social media on in the background, right? And people are just kind of scrolling in between meetings, not being very productive. And that's why you see a lot of companies now using AI technology to see what other browsers are open, and they're shutting them down if you work for them, right? Because of productivity from remote work, right? Whatever your opinion is on that. Right now, how do we continue to stay visible? Because with Facebook alone, there's 618 billion interactions per day, right? Between comments, photos uploaded, friend requests, messages, and status updates. 618 billion with a B, right? So how are you found, right? So according to Facebook, every 60 seconds the following occurs. There's 510,000 comments posted. There's 293,000 status updates and 136,000 photos uploaded. Right? There's over 1 million friend requests sent and over 600,000 messages sent. That's every 60 seconds. Right? If you are not leveraging these social media platforms and posting at least 2 times per day, you're doing yourself a disservice, you're leaving money on the table, you're not building your brand as quick as you could be. Right? So this again adds up to over 618 billion per day, and that does not include likes. Right? That number would be almost impossible to measure if we were including every single interaction on there. Now, here's the truth with social media marketing that a lot of us don't want to hear. Organic traffic is decreasing between 5 to 40%. I know that's a big range. I like to average that down to 6 to 14% of your fans will ever actually see what you post. So what I mean by that is if you have 100 followers on your Facebook page, maybe 6 to 14 of them will ever actually see what you post. And that's probably why you're only getting 2 to 3 reactions. All right, see how that number starts to break down? And the reason being is because Facebook's not making money when you're just posting organically. They will devalue your content on purpose to entice you to spend money. Have we ever seen that little blue box at the end of your post saying boost post? When I was working with Facebook in San Francisco, the employees described that as candy at the end of a checkout aisle at a grocery store. It's a quick money grab for them. It's not truly running an ad. It's not really putting in that effort and that specialties that you could do behind the scenes with Facebook Ad Manager. It's a quick money grab. It's minimum of $5 per day. You can get some stuff out there, but it's not truly running an ad campaign. Right? Just because we're boosting a post does not make us a marketer. Right? That's one of the key things to remember. Either we need to continue to gain in our knowledge and our ability, or potentially we outsource it with people that truly know what they're doing and can measure it. Now, this is part of the algorithm that I wanted to go through. And this is the part of social media marketing and management that not a lot of people get the chance to learn or see. But I know this from my time in working with the platforms. So the first part of the algorithm is affinity, and then it's weight, and then it's time decay. Now, I'm not going to read every single word up here. I'm just going to explain what it is, and we're going to start with weight. Every type of post that you make has a different weight associated with it. So for example, if you strictly just post a text update, how was everyone's day today? Right? That has a certain amount of weight. If you put that text along with a photo, that weight is higher. And then if you have a video, that goes higher. And if you make it a reel, it's even higher. It's more exposure that folks are going to see. They don't want you just posting text updates. They consider it boring, right? They want value-added content. And then affinity is what we're going to discuss next. I think affinity is one of the most unique parts that you could learn and probably one of the most vital parts of this class. So affinity. When someone comments on a post, they are going to see what you say ranked higher in their timeline for their 3 days. If they like your post or they react to it, they laugh it, they heart it, they're going to see what you say ranked higher for 1 day. If they share your post, they're going to see what you say ranked higher for 7 days. That is probably why you see the same people interacting with your post. Where if one person sees it, they're kind of new and they interact once, they're now in your algorithm cycle. They're seeing what you say ranked higher in their timeline, right? Because of those interactions. Is this making sense? Right? And then when we get into time decay refers to how long the edge has been alive. This algorithm is called edge rank. So let's say after 48 hours, 72 hours, no one interacts with your post anymore, we consider that post dead. But I think it's a waste to not go back and revisit that post on your social media. So once I see that my post have went through its time decay after about 72 hours of no one interacting with it, that's when I'll go back and begin responding to comments. And I'll reply back to people, right? I allowed all the natural, organic kind of reach to happen. Time decay occurs. I go back and start responding to people, re-engage the conversation. It brings it back up into the forefront on the timeline, right? So this is how you start to maximize your views, you maximize your dollars, or even your organic type posts by re-engaging after a strategic period of time. And yes?
So sorry, back to weight real fast. Part of my weight content, it may have music associated with it. Even if I put like, I don't own the rights to the music, because I have a business profile on Facebook, it still makes me go through these series of accepting if I want to monetize that particular post. Is it way around that?
So are you asking, so we're talking about monetization of posts and music, etc. But are you saying like you do not want to monetize, or you just don't like being notified of that?
Monetize, but it's, so the only thing we can put is, I do not own the rights to this music. But it'll still make us go through this series of answering questions so that we can get a portion of that.
I would say let's touch base after the class, because I'd rather be able to see visually what you're talking about, rather than trying to imagine it and give you something wrong to the whole audience. But yeah, we'll definitely touch base after class. All right, so going into the different aspects of how does Facebook choose what to show in its news feed. Right, so these are all items that you need to take into consideration. So news feed visibility equals interest, post, creator, type, and recency. Interest of the user in the creator. When they created their profile, did they start following and liking other pages that are in the same realm of your business or your industry? The post, this post performance amongst other users. Are you doing well? Are you gaining traffic? Are people willingly engaging with you? What Facebook had told me, and this was an example they used, their words, they don't want business owners on there kind of acting like these stereotypical used car salesmen, right? Like, buy this car, this is a great buy, let's kick the tires, buy this car, buy this car. The more you ask people for a sale or demand a sale, they will decline that content. It's going to just get driven down because they know it's going to bother people. And then we get to the creator. Performance of past posts by the content creator amongst other users. The type of post, kind of similar to the weight that we were just discussing. Is it a status? Is it a photo? Is it a link? Again, links can be negative because it's driving people off of the platform. What you want to do is bring people back to your main Facebook page where your website link is available for them to click organically. Right? Bring them back instead of putting it there for them to click on. Let them do it themselves. And then recency, how new is the post? Kind of links back into what we spoke on regarding time decay. Now, this example, this may seem a little ridiculous, and this is also very old. This post is actually from 2015, and yes, I still keep it in my presentation because I thought it was genius and it's fun. But has anyone ever heard of the Mellow Mushroom Pizza franchise? They're kind of known down around Myrtle Beach, South Carolina, North Carolina area. All right, I see some heads shaking. So back in 2015, this was an ad that they had put out. We are giving away 15 2015 Mellow Mushroom calendars today. Take a photo of the back of your head and upload it in the comments for a chance to win. Does anyone care about what the back of your head looks like? No, they don't. But what are they doing? They're getting engagement. They're building affinity. They're getting people to comment something ridiculous. And now they know that they're going to see what Melon Mushroom posts next ranked higher in their timeline for the next 3 days. So Mondays might be a hot day for ordering takeout, right? It's a Monday, we don't feel like cooking, whatever. Maybe they launch this type of post on a Friday, and they know they have all weekend through Monday to start putting out specials for Saturday, for Sunday, for Monday, for takeout. And these people that may not have always seen their post will now see it because you posted a picture of the back of your head, right? I know it sounds silly, it sounds dumb, but it works. It creates engagement. Some other examples from companies that we know. Lowe's Home Improvement, right? Using humor, reflecting back on the good old days, right? We do not have to always ask for a sale. People are engaged when they like something. So this example here says, remember when aluminum foil and rabbit ears were the only way to get TV reception, right? They know their target demographic. Homeowners with disposable income. They're thinking about the age range, right? That's what it is. Had over 10,500 likes, almost 500 comments, and 300 plus shares, just by asking a simple question, right? It brings people back. They're thinking about their memories. They're going to share stories. They're going to tag people. It's creating the engagement. Some additional examples of this. It's filling in the blank, right? We all know Target, right? They use these strategies too. Fill in the blank. My patio season must-have is blank. Find it for less at our patio sale. Now, granted, yes, they did link here, right? They did, but they didn't tell people to go to it. They didn't say visit our website or check this out. They wrote it in there very organically, very naturally. Find it for less at our patio sale. Because again, like Facebook told me, they don't want you to come off as the used car salesperson. Now, what were people typing in as for the fill in the blank? We got Hannah, a shirtless muscle man, to fan me with a banana leaf, right? And that's what she told Target that she wants. And then you got Tony over here saying beer, right? They're not going to choose their inventory level or change their inventory level or what they're selling or not selling based on the comments here. It is strictly to create engagement. And then another popular one you'll see is from Walmart. Have we ever seen those like and share contests? Like if you prefer this, share if you like this. You'll see a lot of news stations, especially do this with politics. Heart if you like this person, laugh if you don't like this person. They don't care what you like or what you don't like. They want you arguing in the comments, right? So that way you continue to create engagement and separation. So that way their next post, they're going to have pay-per-click ads. You're more likely now to see it. You're going to click through it and they get paid. Right? They get paid on division. It's all a strategy in marketing and sales when you see that on social media. So back to Walmart. What's the biggest shopping day of the year in the United States? Black Friday, right? So Thanksgiving time, they're ramping up their marketing strategy. So what Walmart's going to put out prior to Black Friday is like if you prefer pumpkin pie, share if you prefer apple. Again, they don't care which one you like. Their inventory is already ordered. They want you to see which one are you choosing? Are you liking or sharing? They're creating affinity. What's the next thing that they are going to publish after they gain all this traction is their Black Friday sales ad. Now they're going to have more eyes on it, more people clicking through, viewing it, and they didn't have to put $1 behind it because we're scrolling on our phones sharing pictures of apple pie, right? And they're going to make more money from us. It's all a strategy. Business, marketing, finance, it's playing chess. It is being 10 steps ahead of where anyone else thinks you are, right? And that's why we do the business plan. So what are some things that we can do now? Just some very basic takeaways. Again, 2 posts per day. That is what's recommended by these social media platforms. If you do less than 2 posts per day, they start to bury you. You're not going to have as much interaction because you're not staying consistent. You're not keeping the interest. You're not being engaged as a creator, right? All those parts of the algorithm start to go into this. Videos, photos, infographics, not just text status updates. I think videos are the biggest thing that you can do. And the reason why I like videos so much is you can utilize them on different platforms. What a lot of folks will do is they'll utilize TikTok, they'll edit their videos, they'll save it, then they'll post that same video on Facebook or Instagram, right? You're reusing your content. There are apps out there that you can download for free, or maybe you pay a premium version where you can upload one post in there of a photo and text, and it's automatically going to post it for you on all the platforms. One thing I did fail to mention that I do want to bring up when we talked about social media calendars, how many of you are scheduling your post already? All right, so just a few of you. Remember, you can schedule your post. What I try doing for my small businesses is on Sundays, if I have a little extra free time in the evening, I will sit down, I'll use ChatGPT, I'll build a calendar for the month. I'll then go onto my social media platforms and I'll schedule it out. Monday at 6 a.m., I want this to post with this photo. Monday at 3 o'clock, I want this to post. You can go through the next 30 days, schedule all of that out. Maybe it takes you an hour or two, but now you don't have an excuse during the week to not post, right? It's doing it for you. The other thing that I want to mention with that is be aware of what's going on in society, not only in your hometown, but around the world, of when those scheduled posts come out. I saw a guy, this was a few years ago, and it was a mass shooting in Florida, right? It was a devastating day in the country, but it was a local business. I knew they had their post scheduled. The average person doesn't. And they had something go out at like noon that day. Oh, it's such a great, beautiful day in America after this tragedy had just happened. And they got ran through the fire on social media. And I tried texting the owner, like, hey man, you may want to get on here. You may want to delete this or get in front of it. But hours had went by until he texted me back. And he had so many negative reviews on Facebook, on Google, over something that he had no ill intent for, but because he had a scheduled post go out and wasn't staying up to date on what else was going on. Make sense? All right, stay up to date, be aware of what you're posting. If you need to go back and delete it or edit it, make sure you do that. But continuing on this slide before we move on, posts with videos are also 53 times more likely to be viewed. All right, so again, I just can't hit video creation enough on how important it is. And I know sometimes it's hard to be behind the camera and filming, making content. Just be creative. Again, use ChatGPT, AI, friends, family, come up with different ideas. You could even prompt in there, I don't want my face in it. I don't want to be in the camera. Come up with ideas that I can do behind the camera and see what it comes up with for you. Now, part of this class, I also wanted to add in various metrics and how we measure. All right, and we're doing good on time. All right, so what to measure with Google. All right, so has anyone ever heard of Google My Business or having your Google page? All right, if you don't have one for your business, I would recommend getting one. I know sometimes it can be a little bit harder to get approved when you are a home-based business because they want people to be able to come to that premise. So I have had clients before that have literally had to FaceTime with Google reps to show, this is a home-based office, there's an extra chair here, someone could come here if they wanted to. So there is a process that you need to go through on that. But once you get that Google My Business page established, there's a lot of metrics that you can track. You could put links from Google into your website, so that way you can track Google Analytics. Usually you can do that on the back end yourself. It's fairly simple with different web developers today, where maybe you hire someone local or you hire somebody online that's a freelancer to help you do that. But it is worth that investment, in my opinion, being able to track this data. So what can you measure through Google? Your overall website traffic, right? How many sessions are created on your website and how many users are visiting. You can check the source of traffic. Is this organic, somebody just searching you online, or was this from a paid ad that you had launched, right? And if you're paying for something, you should be able to measure it, right? Is it working? Should I stop? Should I throw more money into it? This is where we get that information from. Your click-through rate, your cost per click, any conversion rates, calls from your Google business profile. So has anyone ever Googled a local business and saw like the little phone icon pop up and you just hit that and call them? That's all being tracked on the back end. So that way they know how many people are going to that profile, actually making phone calls. That's data that you want to know. So direction request, local businesses, how many people are searching you in Google Maps or in Apple Maps and they're going to your location? If you have a retail location, make sure you're visible on there. Make sure people know where to find you and so they know where to go. And then any online form submissions. So like for example, on one of my business websites, we have an entire form where we want to learn about your business, your employee count, your revenues, etc. They can fill out all that information. It gets emailed directly to me. So before we ever schedule a consultation, we know what we're getting ourselves into. We know the financial history, the complete picture, and Google can help track all of that for us. When it comes to Meta, right, your Facebook and Instagram, organic traffic, you can measure all of this with your reach. How many people were exposed to your content, right? That's your reach. How many people had the opportunity to see it, right? And that's a big difference than an impression. An impression is when someone actually stops scrolling and they read your content. They click on your photo. They watch your video for a few seconds. Reach simply means they had the opportunity to see what you posted. So if someone just scrolled right past you, that's considered as part of the reach. All right, so sometimes people look at that number and think they're doing great, but that is different than an impression. Does that make sense, guys? All right. Then your engagement rate, right? How many people are actually now interacting with you? Follower growth, right? Are you gaining followers? Are you losing followers, right? Very basic metric to be measuring. And then profile clicks, right? It's all information that you need to know. And then when it comes to the ads that you're paying for and what goes on behind the scenes, you can measure your cost per click, your cost per lead, video views, and conversion rates. The reason why all of this is important, and where I see many clients locally or across the country, of kind of where they're messing up in their marketing, is they're gonna say, hey, you know what, I got an extra $100 this week. I think I'm gonna throw some money into marketing. Let's make 2 different posts. We're gonna put $50 behind each one. And then they just let it go and not do anything after that. And they don't know whether or not it's working. Did they ever actually get a lead from it? Did they not? Because it's kind of the easy way out. Some people put the money into it and get scared to ever go back and look. It's kind of like some folks with the stock market, right? I'm gonna put $1,000 and I'm just never gonna look again. You can't do that with your business, right? Your business and your marketing plan needs full-time attention, dedication. It's almost like you're raising a kid, right? You gotta keep your eyes on it at all time to make sure that it's safe and that you're also, again, you're making money, you're turning a profit, right? Because are we running a small business or do we have a glorified hobby, right? There is a difference. That's not just me being rude. The IRS is the same exact thing, right? Is this a business or is it a hobby? So marketing is a measurable investment, right? That must produce predictable returns, right? This is kind of us wrapping up, right? And then we can go into any sort of Q&A, examples that you have. We could have a group discussion too. But what most small businesses do wrong is they're tracking vanity metrics, right? They're looking at their Facebook post that they made and they're saying, oh, okay, I got 3 likes and 2 comments. Like, yeah, that's great. We're building some affinity, but it's not telling us sales data. It's not telling us what actually converted to a lead. Like, did you get a new person follow your page? They see something and now they shoot you a message, right? Maybe ask them, how did you hear about us? Or what post was it that you saw that intrigued you to message us? Another thing that I personally just struggle with on social media, so I'm in my early 30s, right? So I'm a middle millennial, I guess you could call me. I don't like calling people. If I can text or if I can send a message through Facebook or Instagram, that's what I would prefer to do when speaking to a business. And I hate when I send a message and I never get a response back, right? So like for an example, I'm preparing to build a pole barn at my house. And I messaged several different general contractors that build pole barns. No one got back to me except one. And it's like an $80,000 deal that they potentially lost because they didn't check their Facebook messages, right? People don't like calling. A lot of folks have social anxiety nowadays, not saying that I do. Obviously, I can public speak, but if I can shoot a quick message and I can get back to work and not have to spend 15 minutes talking to someone on a phone, that's what I would rather do. Stay engaged. Your Facebook profile, your Instagram is also going to say the average time it takes for a response, right? And if I see someone that says the average response time is 8 hours, that's already a red flag. It's already a red flag, right? We want to try getting that to the point where the average response time is within minutes, right? That's what you want your profile to end up saying. Not calculating cost per acquisition. It's essentially looking at your marketing budget, how much are you spending, and how many clients are you converting, right? And what's that sales revenue that you're getting from that, and starting to determine what that formula is. Not tracking lead source consistently, right? So who are your referral partners? Who do you do business with? Like for me, I do business with realtors. Like I see Andrew there, he's one of our top commercial real estate agents. We do business with sign companies. We do business with bankers, insurance agents, etc. I keep spreadsheets knowing who is sending me referrals. Is it coming primarily from bankers, from realtors, insurance agents, folks from networking, other small business owners? So that way I know where my focus needs to be. Right? If I see 2 leads from here, but there's 10 from here, maybe that's my niche. Maybe I need to be focusing on connecting with more people like that. Track it all. And then not connecting marketing to revenue, right? At the end of the day, you're responsible for your business. And I see too many people making excuses. Well, I don't have any sales. I don't have any sales. Well, what are you doing? Because it's not working, right? And sometimes it's having that wake-up call and then going in, reconfiguring what we're doing and trying something new, right? Because if we keep doing the same thing, but it's not working, isn't that the definition of insanity, right? We got to pivot. We got to change it up. Sometimes we got to be comfortable being uncomfortable, right? I think that's one of the most key lines in entrepreneurship in general. Get comfortable being uncomfortable, right? So again, that's business planning from a high level. That's high-level marketing and details about how to leverage social media, different strategies to utilize, tracking metrics. And I know, again, each of you have a different background, different savviness when it comes to social media, different types of businesses, how your marketing may work for one person here, and it does not work for the other person, all right? So there's not a uniform answer around all of this. Really the best way to help you specifically is individualized consultations to kind of learn more about your business, where you're at, and seeing a copy of your business plan and marketing plan. And then usually I follow up with, well, where's your metrics? How can we actually track this, and how can I help you if I can't see the numbers and the data? But that wraps us up for today, all right? So again, my name is Ryan Dogallo. I'm here with the Small Business Development Center. If you're a veteran, I can also support you through the Veterans Business Outreach Center. And that is my email address. It is rdelgallo@carrollcc.edu. Thank you. All right, we had a question.
You were mentioning for your posts and then using ChatGPT, and can you explain more? I mean, I'm familiar with ChatGPT, but when you're linking it, I didn't understand that.
Yeah, so AI it's only as the output that you get from AI, right? What ChatGPT tells you, that output is only as good as what you're inputting. Right, so the question we're getting is, how are we really using AI? How are we using ChatGPT to help with our marketing? I think one of the best things that you could do is upload your marketing plan in the ChatGPT, attach it as a file, and say like who your target market is, have that stuff worked out already, and then begin to create post, right? And go through it and key it down, but you have to prompt it, right? We may say our target market, again, is 18 to 35 years of age. We believe our customers online between this time and this time. We want to have some photos, but we're struggling to create the content. Give some ideas on how we can relate to this customer, right? So it's a detailed input that we have to provide. And even if you don't necessarily like what it tells you, you can go back and rework it, right? You can reprompt it. Sometimes I hate how formal ChatGPT gives responses. And I've had to go back and say, can you make this sound more millennial? Right? So that way I can relate back to my target audience.
So what is it creating?
You can almost have it create anything. You could ask it specifically, I need to create 2 posts per day for Facebook, and I want to build a 30-day social media calendar. Create this content for me. And it will then output on Monday at 8 a.m., this is what I want you to say, and this is the type of photo that should go along with it.
Do they give you a photo?
Sometimes it can. Sometimes it can.
Videos. You said videos are most effective.
So I haven't seen ChatGPT create videos, but there are other AI subscriptions that you could potentially pay for that would then create video content for you. Other question, yes?
Can you talk about the difference between content that's either created through, like stock graphics and stuff like that, or an AI generated?
Yeah, yeah. So the question was just kind of speaking on, more so commenting on like natural photos versus photos from like stock photos. I hate stock photos. I used to subscribe to like Envato and these different pages to get stock photos because of copyright issues. Never had any sort of interaction with it because we know that it's fake.
Or even like the AI graphic kind of thing?
I think, and this is my personal opinion, when I see businesses and they're running their social media campaigns and I'm reading the text, and what was that word for the dash?
It's an M dash.
An M dash, that's the word. I hate M dashes because I know that no one naturally is using it. I know that it came from ChatGPT.
You can use it naturally, it's under the symbols, but you got.
Yeah, but no one ever does
You
it.
gotta
The average person doesn't do it.
there's a certain cadence that AI.
And now I feel like it's not humanized. It's not real. They're not actually talking to me as a customer. They're not treating me fair because they're just having AI talk to me. That's what I don't like. So I will use AI to get some ideas around content, but I'm not always specifically copying and pasting it. Or I may reprompt it to make it sound more natural, again, more millennial. I say that to be funny, but you already know what I mean. So that way it just seems real. And it's the same thing with the images. I feel like AI and social media was kind of cool at first, but now most people are kind of getting sick of it already. They're like, okay, can we go back to the old days of where I actually know it's real that I'm reading? So it's more of an opinionated type answer there. Any other questions? Yes, sir.
What are your thoughts on that decision point between doing the social media yourself or having someone who does that for a living?
Oh, man, that's a good question. Is there anyone here that does social media for a living? All right, so we have someone that could be a good referral source. The one thing that I have seen, and I'm not picking on you, all right, because I think it's a very good thing that you're doing. What I tend to see from clients that I know that hire other social media managers is they're never happy with the results. And they have false expectations of how quickly they're going to start getting followers and sales. And I see people that may pay $250 to $500 a month for a social media specialist, and 3 months go by and they haven't had major sale increases. And they're immediately blaming the social media manager. Maybe it's something you've experienced in the past. That stuff takes time. And it takes a good bit of time to build up the following and to build up the trust and the brand reputation that it takes. So I'm all for outsourcing if it can save you time and start generating you revenue, but you also need to be patient. And I'm not saying that you're not patient, so I'm speaking very generalized here. It takes time to do it, and it's gonna take an investment, and you gotta stick to it. Because you could stop 5 months in, and maybe that 6th month was gonna be your breaking period. So that's just, again, that's my opinion. Yeah. Did you have your hand up too?
I did.
Yeah.
So I'm kind of in a dilemma with the age range and the location because I do the marketing and social media for the Aberdeen Chamber of Commerce.
Okay.
So I pretty much want to target everybody. Now I know you said that an age range is more specific, but for example, like we have the Mermaid Run in August every year. So I want kids, younger kids, between 13 and 17 to view it, but I also want the parents and grandparents to see it so that way, hey, I can bring my grandkids there that weekend, or hey, I have something to do that weekend. How do I kind of get out of that dilemma?
Yeah, so again, personal opinion, right? So the question was hosting like certain events, and there's all different age ranges that you want as part of it. I still look at that back as who's the target market and who's the end user. The 13-year-old isn't going to dictate, or hopefully not dictate to their parents what they're doing that weekend. But if we can convince the parents, hey, this is a fun event that you should be at, you can bring your kids, it's a family outing, I'm focusing on the decision maker, the person with the checkbook, and the person with the keys to actually get them there. That's where I'm going to put my effort and my money at if it was me making that decision. Yes?
At the same time, if the young person sees it, and I'm not saying but it sounds like they're using Snapchat or something like that.
Yeah, all the different
Would
platforms.
it be beneficial to put it there because then the children say, oh, Mom, look at this event.
Yeah.
Maybe the mother didn't even know it. And then, but to see, put it on both.
Yeah, I mean, you absolutely could. Again, there's no like really right or wrong answer with this stuff, and assuming that maybe people could walk to where you're at based on how you're advertising it, that maybe that 15, 16-year-old and their friends, they would be able to walk there, right? So a lot of this is based on location, walkability, do you need the drive, the radiuses? Again, there's so many variables that go into all these decisions that we need to take into consideration. Yes?
I'd say at the heart of it, always remember, social is the word. It's what you're doing. You're having a communication with someone. Using the Aberdeen Chamber of Commerce example, knowing that you want to get parents of kids, I'd post it 3:15 on a school day when they're all waiting for the elementary school kids to get out of school because they have nothing better to do for the 10 minutes. They needed to be there early. Then you're going to catch their attention, targeting that age group, if you would. If you want the grandparents, I'd be thinking about when I'm watching my mom hit social media. She's doing it 10:30 at night before she goes to bed. It's not midnight after she watches the news. It's a pattern, like, so know it and customize to it. I worked for an eye care company for 6 years, and we had an aesthetics division of our eye care company. I'm gonna tell you, when I posted that, Dancing with the Stars, it's like my favorite time, because every woman between 30 and 55 was watching this when it first came out. So at the heart of it, there are all these algorithms, but it has to connect to you. People want to do it and have it connect to you, your business, who they are, what your brand is. Social media is a tool. It's one of the best valued tools that you can get an ROI on, when you, especially when you're a startup business, but you just gotta own it.
Yeah, I love that. And then again, just for the sake of the camera, talking about when are people online, when are they potentially bored and they're sitting there scrolling, knowing whether or not if that's your target market and the right time to post. I think that was a great analogy, Monica. If you're advertising to a parent that has a kid around that age range, when is the school bus pickup time? Because I'm in that same scenario. I'm down at the end of our street for 20 minutes waiting for the school to get there to drop off our middle schoolers. And I'm scrolling on my phone during that time frame. So that's a very good point. Any other questions or comments? Yes.
I didn't hear you mention about hashtags. Is that something that we're doing away with?
Yeah, it's still used on Instagram, not necessarily on Facebook. I've never seen where it really made an impact on Facebook. People more so just did it to have it stand out because it turns blue. Instagram, definitely. Another, I guess, case study example that I had from a client years ago is they were hosting a retreat for their clients in Harford, Grace. And they were bringing out like 100 staff members, renting different bed and breakfast. And they're like, yeah, we're going to use the hashtag Spring Retreat 2018, right? Whatever it was. And then it ended up being like some big issue within the company because that hashtag was also being used by the spring breakers down in Miami that were posting very inappropriate photos. And so corporate never really thought about it, and that was now all intermixed with their work photos. So when they went back to search it and they put it up on a big screen to see what everyone had, Miami, Harford Grace. So we just want to be careful too on what we're linking it back to, because again, most people, kind of like that guy that I mentioned that had that scheduled post and got kind of ran through the fire, people don't forgive nowadays, and they immediately jump to a conclusion and will not hesitate to leave you a bad review, and not knowing how impactful that can be on your business. You know, I get bad reviews in my businesses, especially in the restaurant, because we're dealing with the general public. But we had a review the other day, and it started out with, I waited 12 seconds to be greeted. And they immediately left a bad review. But then they ended it with, the food ended up being great and the service was too. But they said, do not recommend, because they waited 12 seconds. Right? That's how crazy those reviews can be. And you can try responding, try getting them to correct it, but do they care? Usually not. But they don't realize how impactful that review can be and how quickly that can drop a rate. So at the end of the day, be courteous of small businesses, give them a little bit more grace. They don't have the multi-million-dollar training budgets, as your big corporations that have kind of like your robots working for them, right? Small businesses are your neighbors. They're trying to support the local sports teams and, you know, and everything else that you can. Just be gracious with them as they learn every day like we all are too. But I think we answered everyone's questions. So again, oh, do we have one more? All right, last one.
I've noticed a decline in usership in our Twitter, X, whatever you want to refer to it.
Yeah.
Are you seeing that trend as well? Like, is it even worth the time to use that platform or the new thread?
So I will be completely honest. I'm not too familiar with X. So the question was, sorry about that, I'm always used to being mic'd up and being recorded. The question was regarding X, Twitter. Is that still really a thing? I'm not too familiar with it. It's not something I use myself. So maybe that means something. I tend to see it be more for like politicians and celebrities and big brands, but not too many small businesses using it. Again, I could be wrong because I'm not on it myself. It's just what I hear from other people or content I see shared online.
Yeah,
So.
we've noticed the drop in our followers even. People are dropping their accounts.
Yeah. Yep.
I'm just curious what your thoughts are.
Yep. Thank you. Thank you. Well, again, yeah, do we have another one?
Do you recommend LinkedIn?
For professional services, do I prefer LinkedIn or do I like LinkedIn? Yes, if you are in a business-to-business type environment and if you need to network. I think it's great to have that profile. I see people look me up all the time, kind of, I guess, checking the resume. Why am I listening to this guy type of thing? But what I hate on LinkedIn is when someone connects with me and they immediately send me a kind of like a cold call message. Like, hey, let's schedule a 15-minute meetup. I want you to demo this program. And after that, it's only $499 a month. I'm deleting it. I don't care who you are, I'm deleting it. Get to know me first. Let's go out for a coffee, meet, get to interact with one another before I'm going to be cold called. But that's just how I am. All right, any other questions? Yes.
What about Google? Like, I'm mainly on Google right now. Do you suggest any way to get more views on Google?
Are you keeping track of your analytics? Kind of like what we had talked about with measuring on Google?
Somewhat, and I get a lot of views on it, but I'm not connecting to the amount of views I get.
Yeah.
I should get more content.
So the question was Google Analytics not getting the feedback that we want on Google. It's going to be hard for me to comment without seeing the data. So I'd say if you want to, we could always schedule a consultation. You could send me a screenshot of your analytics and we could discuss it. Yep, not a problem. All right, so I think that was our last question for the evening. So we're going to go ahead and wrap this up. Again, I greatly appreciate everyone coming out tonight. I hope we got to learn something new. Marketing, again, could be a week-long conversation, and you could break this out per industry and per type of business and size of business. So I hope from a general overview that we learned something new, and that we can go back and apply some of these strategies, track it and measure it, and then redo it if we need to. All right, thank you, everybody.